You've seen the lists, same brands, same faces, same recycled rankings. But out in the real world, the matches, training ranges, and duty belts, those flashy pics get dropped real fast. This isn't a trend video, it's a call out. We're pulling the curtain on what actual experts carry in 2025. Federal instructors, tactical team leads, shooters whose gear has to work every single time. And no, they're not just defaulting to Glocks or falling for the newest buzz. These are pistols that earn their spawn through punishment, precision, and brutal honesty. If you want to know what survives under pressure when there's no camera, no sponsor, and no second chances, stay tuned because a few of these picks will absolutely surprise you. Most people dismiss the Springfield Echelon as just another modular gimmick. Most experts didn't, and that split is exactly why this pistol quietly climbed the ranks in 2025. Instructors noticed it first. One federal training program reported a full transition to the Echelon after it survived 60,000 rounds without a single failure. Not one jam, not one cracked part, not even a reset spring complaint. That's not forum chatter, that's active use under pressure. What flipped the switch for the pros? It solved two core problems, grip angle and optic height. The Echelon's core frame isn't just modular, it's optimized. Shooters coming off a Glock or SIG didn't have to retain hand position or sight acquisition. Add in the trench low optic mounting and suddenly you've got a gun that doesn't just accept red dots, it's built around them. Most influencers skipped it. No crazy marketing push, no fancy finish drops. But ask any LE instructor or contract shooter, this one keeps showing up where reliability matters most, and regular shooters are still sleeping on it. If you're still locked into top 5 thinking, this pistol already passed you by. Stay tuned though, because what's coming next might wreck your favorites. Most shooters don't even slow down for the 92 FS anymore. Too old, too heavy, too boring, they say. But the guys who actually fix pistols, range armorers, duty instructors, rental fleet managers, they still load this thing week after week because it refuses to quit. One department armorer in the Midwest said it clear. Not one frame retired in 15 years, not one. No internet upgrades, no trigger mods, just factory Berettas running after 50,000 rounds. Try getting that kind of track record from any of the modern polymer gun. Go ahead, I'll wait. You won't see the 92 FS on YouTube lists. It's not trendy, doesn't crack in half, doesn't jam enough to go viral. But ask the guys who've been around, the ones who've seen Glocks break. They'll tell you the Beretta stays. Not because it's nostalgic, but just because it works. YouTubers love whatever's new, while the pros carry what still works even after year 10. And if you think this was old school, wait till you see what's still being quietly carried by half of the instructors in 2025. Next one's even less trendy, but more trusted. Let's skip the surface talk. Glock still dominates duty holsters, but more and more instructors are quietly switching to the P10C. Not because it's flashier, but because it solves long-term problems they've seen Glock start to struggle with after a few hard sessions. One agency-level training crew ran these through a brutal 8-month course rotation, dropped on concrete, run bone dry, shoved into mud. 0 frame failures, 0 trigger issues, and no parts swapped. Try that with a basic striker. And you'll be tuning springs before you hit month 5. The trigger alone separates it. Resets tactile and not floaty. It doesn't need upgrades to feel deliberate, but what makes it stick with pros is how the grip feels custom fit even after long draws under pressure. No pinch, no regrip, just control. No launch hype, no influencer flood, no Glock killer nonsense. It just wins on performance and stays in the rotation longer than expected. You won't see this one trending because it's not made to impress online. It's made to work in hands that have real consequences. Ask anyone who teaches the ugly side of pistol training, and odds are they'll hand you a CZ and say, run it like it's already broken. There's a reason most rental counters keep a few VP9s tucked away, not because they're trendy, but only because they refuse to fade away. You'll never see them plastered on influencer thumbnails, but the instructors who run 1,000 students a year know exactly where the VP9 shines. At one LE training center, a fleet of VP9s was used excessively for students known to trash guns, run dry, tossed in gravel, zero cleanup. One instructor noted his VP9 never once came back for repair, not once, even after years of punishment. That's not luck, that's engineering. The paddle mag release? It's not a gimmick. It works when your hands are wet, bloody, or gloved. Trigger resets? Clean. Frame flex? Non-existent. It's the pistol armorer's handout when they need something that just won't quit, quietly, without mods or drama. And here's the part most shooters miss out on. The VP9 rarely makes YouTube lists because it doesn't scream for attention. No flashy design, no marketing push. But when everything else breaks, it's the backup that becomes the go-to. Ask any trainer who's had to rescue a class midday. The VP9 is the quiet pro's insurance policy. If you're still sleeping on it, you might be the reason they call it the instructor's secret. You won't find the Max 9 in anyone's flex post. It's not the gun you show off, it's the one you show up with when things go sideways. There's a reason you'll catch it buried under sweatshirts and plate rigs on range officers and instructors. One of them told me blunt, "This isn't my cool gun, it's my quiet fallback when I actually need something to work." And he wasn't kidding. That same trainer ran his Max 9 through 1,000 drawers from appendix over 4 days. No re-zeroing, no grip shift, no malfunctions, no attention either. It just vanished when holstered and barked when called on. And here's the part nobody on camera will say out loud. The Max 9's size and optic-ready slide give it an edge over bigger names when you're not trying to impress. It's the backup that's earned more primary spots than some duty guns. Pros don't debate it, they deploy it. It works, period. No marketing, no shiny photos, just results. Ask around after the course, when the gear's back in the bag and the lights are off. That's when they'll admit what they actually carry. And if that caught you off guard, what's next might make you question everything you thought about expert picks. You ever see a guy in class quietly set his plastic M&P down midday and pull out a different gun? Something with a bit more weight and more control, like he's been waiting for the excuse? Odds are, it was this one. There's a reason the M&P 9 2.0 compact metal keeps sliding into duty holsters and trainer rigs without a press release or fanfare. You won't hear influencers pitching it, but talk to the folks who've actually burned through cases of ammo under heat, fatigue, and tight schedules, and this is the one they're quietly switching to. Metal means less flex, less drift, less of that sloppy frame buzz you get from polymer after a few thousand drops and draw strokes. One agency instructor said straight up, after running Glocks and plastic M&Ps for years, this was the first gun that still locked up like new after 20,000 rounds on sand and steel. You don't need to announce it to anyone, you just run it. And when it stays tighter, flatter, and less speed up than the guy next to you, you know. And if this feels like the sleeper, wait till you see what made it to number 7. Some pistols don't need a high round count to prove their place. The EDC X9 may not be loud, doesn't trend, and never tries to be impressive, but hang around long enough after the final string of the day once the gloves come off and the chatter dies down, and you'll notice who's quietly carrying it. It's the range staff, the trainers, the guys who used to bounce between 5 different carry pistols but eventually stopped rotating. They don't show it off during class, but it's always there when the work's done. No one brags about the EDC X9, and that's kind of the point. You hear things like, "It just doesn't distract me," or "I haven't had to mess with it since I started running it," not because they're trying to sell it, but because they're tired of chasing fixes. This isn't a 1911 for the Instagram cloud, and it's not a flex. The EDC X9 doesn't need to win arguments, it just ends them. Ask the guy who packs up last, the one who doesn't post his carry rig online. That's probably who moved on to the X9. And if you think that's private, wait until you hear who's carrying what at number 5. You'd never guess it from the YouTube silence, but the Walther PDP Compact has quietly become the panic button pistol for a lot of instructors, the one they reach for when a course goes sideways. One former military trainer said it saved a class after a demo Glock started throwing dot wonder mid-lecture and nothing else was zeroing fast enough. The PDP came out of the trunk, got one quick loop swipe, and finished the day without missing a click. Here's what makes it different. It's not just good grip or flat shooting. The guys who use these professionally, guys teaching full 8-hour blocks in heat and wind, say it's the only striker-fired pistol that keeps point of aim under stress without wandering or bouncing off target during optics drills. That's not marketing, just feedback from people who need their students to hit under pressure. You don't see it on top 5 lists or dressed up in flashy skins because the people who run them aren't making content, they're teaching courses. Most shooters ignore the PDP until they're handed one mint class and finally understand why it keeps showing up in the instructor's gear bag. Next up, a gun you almost never see online, but every range officer knows by feel alone. You won't find this one in a rental case. It's not part of a demo fleet, and no one's pushing it on Instagram, but there's a weird trend happening inside certain low-light or after-hours classes. The Taurus GX4 Carry keeps showing up, not because it's cheap, but because it keeps working when things get awkward. One trainer swore his stayed bone dry for 2 full blocks, 0 cleanings, back-to-back sessions, no malfunctions, and he still carries it after dark. What makes it worth watching? It's not the size or price, it's the fact that it rides in the appendix rig of a guy who could afford anything but still runs this on night shift. He says the GX4 Carry just clicks into gear when gloves go on, stress piles up, and the clock's ticking. No tuning, no overthinking, no explaining. It just does what it's told when he's not in the mood to babysit a gun. Nobody's filming that, nobody's writing think pieces about Taurus surprises, but in expert pockets where backup pistols get worn harder than primaries, this one sneaks in more than you'd think. If that feels offbeat, good, because next up is even more confusing. It's the gun that trainers won't admit they switched to until class is over. They'll call it flashy, tactical, even too much. But in real-world training, there's a strange silence when the Canik Mete SF just turns up. Not the optic-ready ones, not the slick modded builds, just the bone stock SF quietly passed between instructors when a student's reliable pistol locks up mid-course. One Nevada instructor put it plainly, the reset's too clean to ignore. Ejection's always the same, and it just holds no matter what kind of grime shows up. You won't find him recommending it online, but ask who he hands out when his gear fails. He's got 2 Mete SFs ready. This isn't a fan favorite or an internet flex. It's the gun that slips in when things go wrong and nobody wants to talk about it. You'll see Glocks everywhere, but ask which pistol the instructor uses when he's up on timer, and you'll start seeing this more often than you expect. It's not trying to be a trend, it just replaces the guns that can't hold up. And the next one's not tactical, not Turkish, but if you've ever run a backup so trusted it never gets filmed, you'll understand why it's always whispered, never posted. There's always that one iron nobody sings songs about, but nobody dares pull from the rotation either. That's the Glock 17. Ask around after a high-stress course, and you'll find it wasn't the optic-ready wonder or the brand-new modular toy that built someone out. That was the 17. Again, quietly and without drama. It's not the instructor's flex gun, it's the one buried at the bottom of the bag, the fallback, the old reliable that's been handed off a dozen times and still runs without hesitation. No upgrades, no sticker love, just trust. It's the only pistol that seems to exist outside of preference. Shooters don't love it, they just never replace it. Because when every other platform is running finicky after too many hands or too much heat, the 17 just keeps moving forward like a teaching tool that refuses to fail. You'll never hear anyone at the range say, "My favorite gun is a Glock 17, but they'll keep borrowing it and it'll keep showing up. And if that felt too predictable, the next pick might be the wildest one on this list yet. It's not famous, not flashy, but it might be the smartest carry out of all of them. You won't hear anyone brag about running a CZ SP01, not because they don't like it, but because the people who carry it don't need to talk. It's the pick when flash burns out, when the course starts at noon and doesn't end until you can't feel your thumbs. You'll usually spot it in the same holster and same guy week after week, quietly doing what the trendier guns don't. The SP01 just absorbs pressure. When everything else starts to bite or drift off target after the 500th rep, this thing still tracks like it's bored. No surprises, no fatigue, no sudden malfunctions to explain mid-course. One instructor joked it was the gun you don't loan out because you'd never get it back. Not because it's rare or expensive, but because it's invisible in the best way. Shooters who use it just keep using it. No spotlight, no upgrades, no fuss. And if you think that's old school, wait until the next one. A pistol they actually ask students not to mention online, not because it's secret, but because it still wins when nothing else feels right. You know the class is heating up when everyone's retaping their fingers by lunch, except for one guy who's still running clean reps like it's hour one. Ask what's in his holster. 9 times out of 10, it's a P365X macro. No bragging, no showing off. Just a quiet swap when the old favorite starts flaring up in the wrist. Most instructors don't open the day with it. They keep it stashed until their gear is slowing them down and they need something that won't distract. The X macro solves that problem before it becomes a problem. That longer grip, that flatter recoil impulse, it's not about innovation, it's about breathing room when you're 3 days into a heat wave and still expected to demo clean reloads. You won't see it on the YouTube thumbnails with bold text and trigger angles, but watch the loner rack when the striker-fired darlings start acting up. The X macro is already gone, usually lent out, and usually never given back. You don't pick it to make a statement, you pick it when you're out of patience, out of tape, and still have 300 rounds left to teach through. If that sounds too plain, you've never run one on day 3. It's never the loud pick, but the second someone says we're tightening up today, the Shadow 2 starts getting pulled from the bottom of the bag. Not for drills, not for fun, but when someone's prepping a shooter to save seconds under pressure. You don't loan this one out casually. It only comes out when the standard isn't good enough. There's this moment, quiet, unnoticed. You'll see the Shadow 2 come out for 5 reps, then vanish again. No fanfare, just a nod between 2 instructors. That's how you know someone needed to reset their standard. Nobody needs to be told it tracks flat because they already know. What keeps it in serious hands is that it holds that flatness when you're shaking, sweating, or halfway through a stage that went sideways. When instructors want to lock in mechanics, side hold, follow through, even the reset rhythm, they grab this one, quietly. No commentary, just business. No influencer arc, no carry version. It isn't chasing relevance, it's not the start of someone's journey, it's where they end up. And if you've never seen it in anyone's top 10, it's because the ones who run it don't need to say anything. If you've actually run any of these, comment down below. If not, don't pretend. This wasn't a list built on hype. These were chosen by people whose gear has to survive when it matters. Not influencers, not fanboys, not forums. Real shooters, real performance, that's it. If you want more brutal callouts, no fluff, no worship, this is the spot. And next time, we're diving into the most controversial pistols that shooters refuse to retire. So if you think today's picks hit hard, just wait. It's about to get even messier. I'm Steve, and I'll see you again in the next video.